Does your lab treat you like just another sample? Meet Brothers Laboratory Services. BLS is the lab built by water treaters for water treaters. BLS is family-owned, centrally located in the United States, and designed to make your life easier. They speak your language, understand your challenges, and deliver fast, reliable results with the personal attention that makes a real difference. Their AWT-certified CWT experts will help you create custom test packages that save you time and money. And because BLS operates independently, confidentiality is guaranteed. No sensitive client data required. With competitive pricing, streamlined ordering, and dependable results, you can stay focused on what matters most, growing your water treatment business. Ready for intelligent analytics and results you can trust? Visit scalinguph2o.com/BLS. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/BLS. Reach out today to connect with a real expert and experience the Brothers Laboratory Services difference. Your system deserves the best, and so do you. Thermal Fluid Technologies brings you Protocol heat transfer fluids, formulated with their innovative no-pit inhibitors designed to keep your systems efficient and corrosion-free. Whether it's HVAC, food processing, or beverage applications, their glycol-based solutions deliver reliability where it matters most. Plus, with their comprehensive coolant testing program, you can rest assured knowing your system is always operating at its best. Discover the difference by going to scalinguph2o.com/TFT. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/TFT. Thermal Fluid Technologies, where performance meets peace of mind. Welcome to the Scaling Up H2O podcast, the podcast where we scale up on knowledge so we don't scale up our systems. I'm Trace Blackmore, the host of the Scaling Up H2O podcast. And folks, welcome to 2026. Can you believe it? The first show of the year. And of course, we've got a great calendar planned for you the entire year on this podcast. But Nation, I have to say, and I know I've said it a couple of times in previous shows, but I just can't believe that we are at the first show of 2026 again, because I feel like we just did this. I honestly feel like I was just preparing to do this for 2025. And then we were recording for the first episode of 2025. It just feels like it was a few weeks ago. Time is just going by so quickly. I guess that means we're having fun. That is what I'm going to take it that it means. And I want to just say thanks for listening to this show. Thanks for knowing what I'm talking about, because many of you out there know the exact show that I'm referring to that we did this time last year. And of course, we always do a reboot episode or a get ready for the new year episode on the first day that this show airs in the new year. So this isn't anything new that we're doing. And I'm going to throw something a little new into it because I haven't done it in a while, and many of you have told me that I need to do it. So what does today's show look like? Well, today's show is we're going to talk about how do we get set up for 2026. And I know you've listened to me in past episodes, and many of you are already there, and that is great. And it's not going to hurt for a slight refresher. And for the others of you that might not be right there, we're going to get you there today. And we're going to talk about some of the tools that we love here on the Scaling Up H2O podcast. And we're also going to do something that we haven't done in a while. We're going to open up the Scaling Up mailbag, and we are going to answer questions directly from the Scaling Up Nation that you have about me, about this show, about this industry, and we're going to have a lot of fun today. So let's go ahead and get started. Well, actually, one more thing before we do. I want to thank the people that reached out to me because last week's episode, I wanted to do a holiday celebration, but I wanted to do it kind of differently. So I chose the 12 days of scaling up. And I was worried how that was going to be received because it was a little hokey. I'll admit that. But I got a lot of good feedback on that. So thank you very much for all the people that let me know that they appreciated the style that I was trying to bring into the episode. And I would say when I first started this podcast, I would be terrified to try something like that. But because I've been doing this for a while, because I've got great listeners of the podcast like you, the Scaling Up Nation, and because the Scaling Up Nation and I, through this show, have this relationship, I know that I can try new things. And I also know that the Scaling Up Nation's going to tell me what they think about it. But well over 90% of everybody out there in the Scaling Up Nation is always so supportive of the things that I'm doing and that I'm trying and the things that our wonderful staff here does on this Scaling Up H2O podcast. So thank you for always letting me know what your opinions are and being so supportive. I will tell you that that makes the show so much better. Now, we're going to ask a question later about all the ingredients that go into the show. And I have to say that all of the support, of course, I haven't answered that yet, but when I do answer that, I want you to remember that all of the support that the Scaling Up Nation gives to me and the show, that is baked right in there, and it makes everything that we do so much easier. So thank you, Scaling Up Nation. And let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do today. So the first thing I want to bring your attention to is the 12-week year planning format. Now, we are not strangers to the 12-week year. And many of you might be saying, oh my goodness, Trace is talking about the 12-week year again. We get it, Trace. Move on. But here's the thing. Even though we've heard it, so many of us might not be doing it, or we did it last year and we're not ready to do it this year. So even if it just helps one person, and I'm willing to believe that there's probably more than just one person out there, I want to do a refresher on the 12-week year. And by the way, if you do not have an Audible subscription, and Audible has become one of my favorite ways to devour content in the form of books, because I can now multitask. I can now normally drive and listen to a book, and I don't have to just do one thing. And I'm not one of those just do one thing people. If I can do something while I'm doing something else, it really makes me feel good about myself that I'm really getting things done. And Audible allows me to do that. Now, I am a red temperament. And if that sounds like something that is very exciting to you, you might be red or blue because we are more task oriented. If that sounds just miserable, or I don't do things according to task, I do things to who's going to be there and who I'm going to help, you might be a yellow or a green temperament. Now, all that being said, no matter what temperament you are, the 12-week year can help you with your planning. It's just you're not going to be as focused on the task. If you're a yellow or a green, you're probably going to be more focused on the people you're going to be doing that with. All that to say, same thing with Audible. You might have a different reason. Okay, it's not about getting the things done. It's about the conversation I'm going to have with the people once I get this read. So you can make this work, whatever temperament that you are. And if you don't have Audible, you can go to scalinguph2o.com/Audible. I can get you a free month and a free book. And perhaps your free book is the 12-week year. Now, if you want a copy of the 12-week year, to make it as easy as possible, we have an affiliate link that we put together, and it's scalinguph2o.com/12, the number, week year. So scalinguph2o.com/12 week year, and then you can get a copy of that. Now, the reason I really like the 12-week year is because it puts the urgency of not having a full year of time, only having a smaller amount of time to work for you. Now, think about it. December is normally a productive month because we only have so many weeks left in the year. And I said I was going to do this. I'm not going to get it done. If I don't get it done in the next so many weeks, I need to buckle down and get that done. So it takes that type of urgency. So it gives you the same time urgency that you would have over the 12-month period, but now it's a 12-week period. So that's why every quarter is treated like a year. And it forces urgency during the quarter, just like it does when we're in December. It also gives you 4 chances a year to reset and improve, not just one. It highly looks back on what you learned in the previous quarter so you can continuously improve. So it's 4 times better than doing it annually. So that's one of the great reasons, I think, why I really like the 12-week year format. Now, if you would like a copy of the 12-week year, I know I mentioned this, but I want to mention it again so you don't have to go back and write it down. Go to scalinguph2o.com/12-week year. Now, before we move on, the last thing I want you to think about is think about you're not meeting with your client regularly. Maybe you're only meeting with them annually and you haven't seen them for an entire year. Now, yeah, you've sent them service reports, but you haven't had really any real communication with them. How is that annual meeting? It's probably not great because you're having to reintroduce yourself, reintroduce themes, reintroduce problems, remind people of certain service reports. Now imagine if you had quarterly meetings with your customer. And now by the time you got to the same point in time where you were at that annual meeting, that was now your 4th meeting. How much more productive would that meeting be than if you just had one in a 12-month period? That is the same thing that we're doing with 12-week year. Now, the structure is you're going to come up with a vision of where you want to be. And the ideal way to do this is in 3 years out, what are some areas in my life that I want to improve, that I want to have some goals around? Maybe it's in 3 years from now, I want to go on this huge trip with my family, but that's not going to happen without saving, without planning, without making sure my family all can get together during that time and all of the things that have to happen to get that to come to a reality. So in that little example, you can see, okay, we've got this goal, but it's not just a goal. The goal gives us the vision to motivate us. And now that we're motivated because we can see, we can hear, we can taste all of these things about this trip, that's going to excite us and get us going when it's hard to continue to go, to do all of the things that we need to do to make that a reality. And by the way, if it's easier for you to follow a PDF, we have one for you. The great people at the 12-week year sent this to us, and now we have it available for you. So if you go to scalinguph2o.com/12-week year plan, that's 12-week year plan, the number 12, 1, 2. You can get this planning guide of exactly what I'm talking about. So let's stick to the vacation in 3 years. And by the way, it's my hope that you have several areas that you're trying to create these visions for. And that way, you're really looking at all the different aspects of your life. For this example, we're just going to use one. Now, in the Rising Tide Mastermind, we do this exact format, but we use 5. And then we share that with the group. And then throughout the year, we're holding each other accountable that we're doing all the things that we need to do to make that 3-year vision a reality. Now, knowing that you're going to do several visions for each one of these areas, we're going to stick with the one that we're going to take this great vacation. Now, this is not just any vacation. This is like the vacation of all vacations that's going to get us immersed in culture, that's going to get us immersed in family, all of these things. So we've got a lot to plan for. And if we don't do any planning until the night before, it is not going to be that type of vacation. So what we're going to do after we've written down exactly what that vacation looks like and the date that it was completed, probably 3 years out, is we're going to choose maybe 3 to 5 goals that we are going to move forward on during this quarter, during this 12 weeks. Now, one of those goals might be that you start doing internet searches for places that you want to go to or hotels you want to stay at. It can be whatever you want it to be, but try to do 3 to 5. Don't do 20. People will overload and they'll get a tremendous amount of work done, but they won't get all 20 done, and then they feel like a failure. So 12-week year prescribes 3 to 5, and these are tactical goals that you are going to do over the next quarter that you are going to be able in the next 3 years take this wonderful vacation. Now they're tactical because they're building on each other to this ultimate goal. Now, maybe it's decide on hotels. It might be create my list of hotels so I can decide the next quarter. So, however you decide to build on it, make it so it allows you to make decisions of where you're going to go. It allows you to be productive. It doesn't overwhelm you, and it keeps you on track. Now, the other thing I want you to do with this, and this is why we are so productive in the Rising Tide Mastermind, is I want you to share those goals with somebody. Now, we have accountability partners every single quarter, and we rotate every quarter. And what we do with the accountability partners is we share these vision statements in the 5 areas that we're trying to improve or get some specific outcome from. And then we talk about what the previous quarter allowed us to do. Did we have any successes? Did we have any struggles? What that taught us. And then we use that teaching to plan together. What are we going to do over the next quarter? And we hold each other accountable that those things are getting done. So that's the tactical portion of this. So I hope that you can see that using something simple, like not having an outcome at the end of 12 months, but having an outcome a little bit smaller at the end of 12 weeks, makes us more productive. It allows us to pivot when life happens. And trust me, life will happen. And it allows us to learn from all the things that are going to happen during those 12 weeks. And we have 4 times during the year that we can apply that knowledge. Folks, such a plan a 12-week year. I would love it if you've got some feedback or you want to share some of your goals. Feel free to do that on our social media. And however we can help you fulfill your goals. So they're not just dreams, they become actual outcomes. Let us know what you need, because we are all in the same industry. We are all trying to make this great industry better. And if we're not working on ourselves to become better, there is absolutely no way that we can achieve that. And as I mentioned with the Rising Tide Mastermind, as a member of the Scaling Up Nation, you know other people are working on this in the same way that you are working on it. So I hope that gives you the sense that you are not alone, that even though you might not have met certain people in the Scaling Up Nation, you know that they are doing the same things that you are doing. They're working on them in the same ways that you are working on them. And that gives you a little bit of strength in the moment when it's really hard to do that thing that you know you should be doing, but maybe it's easier to watch Netflix or fill in the blank. So, Nation, again, as I said earlier, thanks for being part of the Scaling Up Nation, because it's the Scaling Up Nation that's making this industry better through all of us. All right, we're going to do something a little bit different. And it's not different that we've never done it before, but it's different that we haven't done it in a while. Here is our very first, in a very long time, but very first for this year, dive into the Scaling Up H2O mailbag. And Nation, what we've done, we've just selected some questions from the audience. And if you're wondering how we got these, this is what I plead to you each and every episode, just about each and every episode. If you have a question, an idea about a show, a guest that we should interview, a paper that we should read, any of those things that's going to create a show that you want to listen to, we ask you to go to scalinguph2o.com, go over to our show ideas page, and that's exactly what all of these people have done. Now, what we've done, we've kind of combined some of the questions together to make them into one question. So you might hear your question in a question with three other people's questions. It's just how we chose to do it, to make sure that we were answering as many questions as we can and hopefully make it entertaining to you as we do this. So question number one, how does an episode go from an idea to airing? Well, first off, we get a lot of questions around this. And I can only take that to mean that you all enjoy this show and you like the final product and you want to know, how do we create a product that you enjoy listening to? That's how I'm framing the question anyway. Now, a long, long time ago, a galaxy far, far away, episode 100, we explained how we were doing things back then. So if you want a full episode on that, go back to episode 100 and you can actually hear from, at the time, our executive producer, Lauren Von Felt. And then we also had Sean Dooley, who is our audio engineer. He has been our audio engineer. He's still our audio engineer. He is fantastic. And you can actually hear us talking about the show. Now, during that show, we had a recipe, if you will, on how we did an actual show. Now that's changed because we've had probably 400 episodes since then, but it hasn't changed tremendously, because when we were trying to figure out what the recipe was of this thing, we really tried to figure out, okay, how do we write this down? How do we make sure that we can keep what we have and make it better? So there's a large foundation in that 100th episode. And then since then, we have polished it. We have added some things. So with that, it all starts with idea sourcing. And that might come from a listener question. It might come from something that I'm reading from a trade journal, and I read a lot for this podcast. It might be a new book that I'm reading, and I want to see if the author will come and talk to us. It might be something that I saw at a trade show. It might be something that I saw marketed to the industrial water treatment industry, and I want to find out more information so I can get that to you. There might be something that happens in the news that affects the industrial water treatment industry. I think you get the idea, but there's a spark Now, the best sparks come from the Scaling Up Nation, but this is how we get all of the ideas and source them. Then we go into a pre-production mode, and that is, how do we research for that? And is this the right topic? I read this paper, but now that I read more into it, I don't think this is going to reach the majority of the Scaling Up Nation, so this is not a good idea. Or the opposite. Oh, wow, this is exactly what I'm looking for. So then what I will do is and I say I'm really speaking for the entire team, we will reach out to that potential guest and see if they want to come on the show. If they say yes, we then schedule them and we have a date that's somewhere in the future. And then we start creating an outline so the guest and then I can follow, not a script by any means, just some bullet points so we know where we're going, so we know what to expect with each other, so we can come to that interview very prepared. Then we record. And I have a whole list of things that I do to make sure that I capture the best recording, make sure that all of my equipment's set up properly, making sure that I don't have interruptions during the interview. I actually have a red light over my studio that I turn on. So we have all of these various things that we do. Then we thank the guests because we wouldn't have a show without the guests coming on and doing the recording. And then we go into post-production. We send the show in the raw form. And I say raw form, there might be some outtakes or things like that in the actual recording. And then Sean, our audio engineer, then takes that raw file and makes the final product sound so good. And he knows what he's doing. He's got wonderful equipment. He's just got an amazing ear and he's got years of experience. And you might have heard that our show continues to get better on sound quality. And that's because of Sean driving that. That's because of you driving that, because now you've heard good sound quality. If we ever have a guest where their sound doesn't sound as good as it should, you let me know about it. We don't ever have a problem with the Scaling Up Nation letting me know what they think about particular shows. So because of that, something new that we didn't do back on episode 100 that we do today is when we send them an invitation, we also send them some prerequisites that we want them to have as far as equipment. Because the Scaling Up Nation can hear when they're just on their laptop microphone. So we have a list of budget-friendly but also high-quality microphones that our guests can get off Amazon so they can give you the recording quality that you have come to know and love. So that's something new that we do now. And I will say that has helped a lot because when we have really noisy, lower quality microphones, there's a lot of work that Sean has to do to get them to sound as good as he can get them to sound. That takes a lot of time, but it also takes some other things out of the episode, like high ends that are now distorted because they were now staticky. And even though they sound pretty good, they still don't sound the way you know that something is missing. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you. That's one of the big changes that we've had recently. And our guests have just been fantastic with that. Then after we get this show back, we then create some show notes, we create graphics, we create social media posts, and then we schedule all of these things. Now I want to go back to social media posts because that is something our team does great. Now, Allie, our executive producer, she just does an amazing job. And some of the graphics and things that she puts out, I am just amazed by. She really makes the entire show, and especially me, look good. And it allows us to collaborate together in the Scaling Up Nation, especially when we're doing some sort of campaign like Industrial Water Week. And there were so many posts that went out on social media asking you all to hashtag pictures of boilers and cooling towers and things like that. And so many people got involved doing that. And Allie was there with the reminders, with the motivation, with all of her posts to get this past Industrial Water Week to the huge success that it was. And we saw so many people involved, way more than any other year. So, Allie, thanks for all of the things that you do, not just on social media, but everything that you do to make this podcast happen. And then finally, we promote it. We now let you know through social media that this podcast is out there. We then have newsletters. A lot of you have signed up for our newsletters so you can know exactly what's going on each and every week, even before the episode is aired or you've listened to it. And then we created discussion guides this year. And that was something new that we did last year, and they were received tremendously well. So we're going to keep that up. And there are probably 100 other things that I didn't mention, but that is in a nutshell how a show goes from the spark of an idea to getting to you every single Friday for a brand new episode. So thank you for the people that asked that question. Another question is, what is new for 2026 for Trace Blackmore? Well, I am always trying to do something new. And of course, I'm doing that 12-week year style. Now, one of the biggest things that I think I've ever done in my life is I am going for my doctorate in business administration. And I have never written a doctoral thesis before, so I'm learning about all of that. I am really putting my MBA to work because the MBA really for me was a reminder of all the tools that I've been exposed to in different masterminds that I have been a member of, in the business that I've run for so many years, and the organizations that I serve on board members as. All of those things, at some point, I had used one of the tools that was in my MBA program. Now, there were some new ones out there that I was like, oh, I've never used this before. But by and far, it was more of a review of tools that I have already used. And I loved getting my MBA. But now the doctorate is now taking an idea and then figuring out how am I going to test that idea using methods that are appropriate for this sort of writing. And then not only writing that, not only researching that, not only collecting data for that, but now defending that. And people asking me questions why I did certain things and, can I really back up what I'm saying? I have not done anything like that before. Maybe the closest things that I came to was an international water conference where they have their peer review process. But again, very, very different than the doctoral program, but probably the only experience that I can think of where somebody's actually, and they don't really challenge you. Well, actually, I've seen some where they've been pretty challenging, but now you've got to defend. So this is something new that I'm trying. This is something that is really stretching how I think. This is something that's stretching how I make sure I get that goal done, because at the end of 2.5 years now, that's the goal, that I actually walk on stage and accept my doctorate. And if I don't do all the things that I need to do, then I won't be able to get that done. Now, with all of that, I'm making sure that I'm keeping the Scaling Up Nation informed of that. And I'm doing that because I want you to hold me accountable. Also, I will be collecting data. And why not? We have this great platform where I can use some of my research data, share with you, the Scaling Up Nation. And if you want to, I'm going to give you an opportunity that you can respond to one of my surveys so I can collect data and analyze during my doctoral thesis. So that's going to be coming. So all of that to share with you, that is probably the most challenging thing that I've done, and that is very new for me. Time for a quick break, Scaling Up Nation, as we hear from one of our sponsors. 3 industry titans, Masters Company, Radical Polymers, and MFG Chemical have joined forces to create your ultimate one-stop shop for your water treatment needs. We're talking over 60 years of Masters Company's expertise in private label products and cutting-edge test kits. Radical Polymers' game-changing Inisha additives, and MFG Chemicals' custom manufacturing prowess. These American companies are bringing you top-notch quality and reliability all under one umbrella. From blending and ultra-concentrates to specialized polymers and custom solutions, they've got you covered. And with multiple AWT Supplier of the Year awards between them, you know you're getting the best of the best. Ready to revolutionize your water treatment game? Head over to scalinguph2o.com/MFG. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/MFG. Trust me, you'll be glad you did. Let's dive back in right where we left off. Now, as far as new features coming up on the podcast, now, one of the biggest things that we did last year was we added the discussion guide. Now, a lot of you have utilized this discussion guide. Several of you probably have not. And let me tell you, this is one of the best tools ever for bringing the podcast to life with your team. So you heard a good episode and you're getting ready to have a company meeting or a team meeting or division meeting or whatever it is. And you say, hey team, I want you to listen to this number podcast and be prepared to talk about it. Well, now you've got a discussion guide where you can talk about it. Now, a lot of people have created their own and that's fine, but there were a lot of people that weren't creating their own and they were asking us to do that. And we've done that each and every episode. So any episode that you've listened to last year on has a discussion guide that really makes that conversation easy. So something new this year is we're continuing to get feedback from that and we are enhancing that. Also, we are working closer than ever with AWT, and the editor of the AWT Analyst, Mike Henley, has reached out to me and said, could we create some articles around some podcasts that he can include in the Analyst? So we're starting to do that this year. We did some trial ones just to kind of test the waters last year. I think we did one and it was received very well. And then I kind of learned how I could write those and what people were looking for. And it is a little expansion on what you heard on the podcast and also encourages you to go and listen to the podcast. So if you've never listened to that number podcast, you still get a lot out of it. And then you get motivated to go listen to it. If you have listened to it and you remember it, it's going to give you some extra things that I'm thinking about during that interview. So look forward to that this year. We're going to try to have one on every analyst issue that comes out. And then, of course, our friend James McDonald. We, of course, love all the content and collaborating with James. Well, James has a brand new game show style segment that he cannot wait to share with you. And here it is.
Hello and welcome to Words of Water with James, the industrial water game show where I give you the definition and you get to guess the word or phrase being defined. Will you rise to the top or get blown down to try your luck another day? There's only one way to find out on Words of Water with James. Let's start off with a fundamental definition. Today's definition is the ratio of the dissolved solids in a system's circulating water to the dissolved solids in the makeup water. Can you guess the word or phrase? The answer is cycles, or cycles of concentration. Bonus points for those who said concentration ratio. Okay, for those who got it correct, step to the right. For those who got it wrong, please step to the left. I love that part. I'm James McDonald, and I look forward to seeing you next time on Words of Water with James.
Well, thank you, James. And as always, we have so much to expect from James McDonald. He has been doing this, I think, for the past 7 years with us. So, James, thanks for always being on board to make this podcast even better and all the things that you do to help with that. Nation, we are going to have a great year for 2026. And I'm going to move on to the next question. So the next question, here's a light one. It says, Trace, what is your favorite food? Now, I'm going to be honest with you. I used to avoid questions like this because I didn't think it was relevant to building up the water treatment industry. And I've talked to many of you, say at the AWT conference, where I've done some more personal things in 2025 and shared them with the Scaling Up Nation. So many members came up and told me that they really enjoyed that. They really enjoyed knowing more about things that I was doing and getting to know me better. So, a question that I would normally say, I don't know if I'm going to pick that from the mailbag, I think fit exactly in that category. Now, if it wasn't for your feedback, I would not have chosen this question. So now that I've gone on so long about that preface, you've probably forgotten the question. The question is, what is your favorite food? And I will say, hands down, I really enjoy a cheeseburger. There is just something about a well cooked, medium is the right way, if you ask me, where it's got a good texture, it's got a good mouthfeel, it's got the right kind of cheese. 9 times out of 10 for me, that is cheddar. And the sharper the cheddar, the better as far as I'm concerned. And then, of course, the toppings, and I can kind of mix these up. But I will tell you, a burger by itself, just like that, should be able to stand on its own. But then I also subscribe to the Jimmy Buffett with lettuce and tomato. I don't do the Heinz 57, but I do love a good side of fries beside that. I will say it's not my absolute hands down favorite burger, but consistently and easy to get. Five Guys probably has one of the best burgers. It's not medium, of course, it's cooked well done, but consistently one of the better consistent burgers in the country. Now, there's a restaurant that is around the country, but mostly here in Atlanta. Ted Turner, the founder of the CNN network, he has a restaurant called Ted's Montana Grill. And that is one of our favorite restaurants to go to. And they have a great burger menu, but they also have some great salmon. They serve bison. They do just a great type of regular food restaurant. My wife and I normally go there. It used to be once a week. Now that we're with Hayden, it's probably more once a month, but we really enjoy all the things on that menu and we enjoy a good burger. Now, the question follows up and say, what was the best meal you've ever had? And the best meal that we ever had was also the experience with the meal. And this was many moons ago. My wife and I are fans of The Amazing Race. And we went on vacation to Universal Studios, Florida. And this was several years ago. And they had just opened up a restaurant from Emeril Lagasse. And he's the BAM guy, if you remember. And this was a while ago. But I just loved watching him. And Stacy and I would watch him. He had like a talk show slash cooking show that would come on at night. And that was one of the regular things that we watched. Well, anyway, we got to Universal Studios and we learned that he was filming live on location there. However, we had to go somewhere very specifically to get tickets, and it was across the park, and there were very limited tickets there, and they wouldn't reserve them for us. So we learned that when we got into the park. By the way, we already had reservations for the restaurant because that was an anniversary gift we had given to each other. But now we could actually see the taping of this show live. So they were telling us in this big group, first come, first serve, had to go all the way across the park. Well, Stacy, being a blue, a very adept planner, she already knew where to go, the different places. Now, she didn't know the information that there were going to be tickets there, but she knew how to get there most efficiently. And we like darted off across the park. We took all these shortcuts. We went through these little areas that would allow you to get through one area and go to the next area, but they weren't really advertised. She knew about all those. And we were one of the first people to grab those tickets. And then we spent the next couple hours in the hottest sun beaming down on us as they videotaped this 45-minute TV show that took about 3.5 hours. Folks, let me tell you, the magic of television, that was one of the most boring things that we've done. Now, it was exciting when they were actually taping and he was talking and that, but most of it was waiting. And we were like, we could be doing something fun. We're in this awesome theme park and we're sitting here baking under the sun, waiting for them to do the next take. So all of that, when we finally got to the restaurant, I don't think it was that night. I think it was the next night. We felt we really earned that meal. And it was some of the best customer service we had. It was the best wait staff we ever had. People were extremely attentive. So if your water glass went down, they would come and refill it, but they weren't obtrusive. So you didn't know that they were there. It wasn't like in other restaurants we've been to where you didn't feel like you could have a personal conversation because there was somebody right there watching for your water glass to be less than half full. So all of that, that was my favorite meal. Now you know my favorite food. And thank you for giving me the courage to actually pull that question out of the Scaling Up mailbag. All right, here's another question from the Scaling Up mailbag. What are the top 2 to 3 skills water treaters should focus on in 2026? Now, I took some liberties. I added the 2026 because this is our beginning of the year episode. Here's what I think. I think everybody in water treatment should focus on developing skills around a solid foundation. Now, that could be chemistry. So, do you really understand the reactions that are going on when you put your water treatment juice into the system? Why does it work? And if you understand that, when you start troubleshooting problems, you'll start understanding why it's not working. So, when you understand essentially what the chemistries are doing, how they're reacting, if you're not getting that anticipated result, you are going to very clearly understand why the other results are appearing. So I think anything you can do to better understand your products and how they work is a great foundational tool for you to work on this year. Same thing with your test kits. And I love having a test kit because I can think to myself, what do I think is going on with this system? And now my test kit allows me to get that data to support whether what I thought was correct or incorrect. Now, what I see that's incorrect is that people think that servicing is just staying in their test kits, just staying in the mechanical room. And folks, you're going to get some good data from your tests, but that is not your job. That is a tool to help you do your job. So I'm going to have you, if you choose to accept it, to go ahead and learn the chemistries of your test kit. You will then find those tools way more valuable. And I think now that the mystique is taken away, that it's just this color turning to this color, and I don't really know why it's doing that. Now I know the chemistries that are doing that. It's going to help with your hypothesis. It's going to take the mystique out of it. It's going to make your test more of a tool and less of something that you're doing because somebody told you to do them and you don't know any other way without doing it in that particular way. Now they are a tool that you can use, and depending on what your tests are telling you, even if you're not getting the expected results, because you now know the chemistries, you're going to be able to back up redefine your hypothesis, and really figure out what's going on with that system. The third thing that I would look at foundationally, and I kind of mentioned it in talking about the test, but staying in the mechanical room. So many people do tests in the mechanical room and write a report and leave. There's so much more to that system that you didn't get to lay eyes on. So my third foundational thing that I think every water treater needs to work on would be making sure you understand the equipment that you are charged in caring for. Do you really know how that chiller works? Do you really know how that heat exchanger works? Do you really know how that boiler works? Why is this boiler designed this way and that boiler designed that way? Was it something because of the industry that it's in? Was it something because of how the building's designed? The more you can learn, the more you are going to know when you go in, especially when you find a problem. And what that will ultimately allow you to do is communicate better with your customers. So what I just mentioned, I know there were three things, but that was actually one thing that I was thinking of. The other thing I'm thinking of is how are you going to communicate better with everybody in our industry, probably especially your customers, but everybody in our industry, and how are you going to build those relationships? Now, I mentioned at the top of the show the I said this, you heard that study. And we've had Kathleen Edelman on several times. She's actually helping me with some of the data that I'm doing for my doctorate. Now I'm kind of spoiling what my doctoral thesis is going to be on, which is why you are going to be so helpful with this. But I'll have a whole show where I'm talking more about that probably. And that's not this show. But Kathleen teaches us how we communicate and what we need to hear and how others need to be communicated with and what they need to hear. So if you have not listened to those episodes, we are going to have those 3 episodes on our show notes page. I highly recommend that because if you can communicate what you just found foundationally with what we were talking about to your customer, you can now improve your customers' systems. And I can't tell you how many people have invited me in to do a survey of their mechanical room and say, hey, are we doing a good job? Are we not doing a good job? And a lot of times people are just keeping up the status quo. They're simply making sure that how they took over the account is staying that way. Now, it might even be clean and well stocked, but it's a 10-year-old program. And trust me, there are so many advances that have happened over the last 10 years. Your customer's system and your customer are not able to take advantage of that. And what is translating to you is it's costing you more time to service because you don't have those other tools in there. And that leads me to my third skill that I want to talk to you about, and that's learning what's available to you when it comes to data and technology. There are so many advances that are happening in pumps, in controllers, basic analytics, all of these things. There are just so more advanced than that system we were talking about that came out 10 years ago. And folks, believe me when I say that translates into time savings for you. Imagine if you know pretty much what's going on in a system before you go to visit that customer. You're bringing things that you probably wouldn't have brought. And without that information, you would have had to go back to. Oh my gosh, going back to an account, that is such a time killer. And there's so much out there that allows us to take advantage of knowing things that we wouldn't have known unless we were on site. Well, now we have tools that give us a look at what's going on site so we can actually do better and more productive work while we're on site. Now, it would not be a proper podcast if I did not tie all of this together. So I just gave you three things that I think you should work on this year. And if you need a recap, it was solid fundamentals and creating a great foundation around chemistry, around your tests, around the products that you have, and also understanding the systems that you're working on. So that's one. The next one is really working on your ability to communicate. How do you make sure that you're taking the gray out of communication and you are properly speaking with whomever is on the other side of that so you're mutually benefiting from that conversation? And the third thing was learning what's available and how you are going to use all the new technology that's out there. So, why not create a 12-week plan around this? And what you can do is you can create a vision for what this is going to look like after a year. Now, if you use the 12-week style, it's going to be 3 years out. If you're just getting started, that might be too difficult. Feel free to just use 1 year if that gets you started. And now you know each of those three areas. What is it that you are going to try to do? What does it look like when it's finished? And now I want you to pick 3 to 5 things in each area that you're going to do over the next 12 weeks that gets you closer to that. Now, after that quarter is up, you're going to evaluate how you did, and you're going to pick another 3 to 5 items to help get you closer to that vision that you created on these 3 items. Now, what you're going to do weekly is you are going to tactically pick out things that allow you to work on those 3 to 5 goals for this quarter. And it might be that you are going to start reading the Hawk Water Analysis Handbook, and we'll put a link to that on the show notes page. And that has everything that you would ever want to know about all of your tests, how they work, what the interferences are, how to get past some of the interferences. And it's all free, put out by Hawk, who is a sponsor of this podcast. Hawk, thank you for that. So we'll make sure to have that on our show notes page. If you want to search for it, it's the Hawk Water Analysis Handbook. But again, we took the guesswork out of that. We've got a link directly to that. So maybe one of your tactics is you're going to look up and print out or save the PDF to each one of the tests that you use. And that's what you're doing this week. Next week, you might review 2 of them. And then the week after that, you're going to review some more of those. So at the end of whatever time you have, you now have read way more on all of your tests, and you know a lot more. So you can now pick what the next item is going to be. And you're going to do that for each one of these. So it's my hope you download all the things in the show notes page. We have a link to the 12-week year book. We've got a link to Audible. We've got a link to the 12-week year Audible. We've got a link to the PDF that helps you plan the 12-week year. So many tools within this podcast show notes page to get you started off right with 2026. Now, I know what you're saying, Trace. You normally tell us what events are going on, but here is the last part of you getting ready for 2026. I want you to go to scalinguph2o.com, go over to the events section, and I want you to just browse through. And I want you to see if there's something that's coming really close to you that you didn't know about, that's really not going to cost you anything to go to, and it's going to get you more information on industrial water treatment. It's going to get you to the next level of something that you are exploring. It's going to allow you to network and meet people you would not have met before. So I want you to go through the events page. There's so many on there. See if you can find one of those items. And then, now you're familiar with our events page, go back and say, what are the conferences that I really want to go to this year? And maybe they're ones that you've got to convince somebody to send you to. Well, now you've got a complete 12-week year style of how you're going to use that. And I guarantee that will allow you to sell that to whomever, because they're not only going to see the benefit for you, they're going to see the benefit that you are going to bring back to them. So, Nation, it is my hope that you have a fantastic 2026. I sure enjoy hosting this podcast. So, thank you for being a member of the Scaling Up Nation. So, Nation, I normally say have a great week, folks, but I am going to say have a great year, folks. Happy 2026. See you next week. No more going it alone. Feeling isolated in your professional journey? The Rising Tide Mastermind is here to change that. Connect with a supportive network of professionals who understand your challenges and are committed to your success. Don't be an island. Consider joining the Rising Tide Mastermind. Go to scalinguph2o.com/mastermind. Once again, that's scalinguph2o.com/mastermind to find out if the mastermind is right for you.